The father who abandoned my mother and me over 20 years ago has returned. He brought his young son with him and sought out a talk show. In front of the cameras, David clutched his son, weeping and saying, "I know I was wrong to your mother and you all those years ago, but now I truly have no other choice. I am old, and your brother is still young. As his older sister, you must take care of him." The show's host was deeply moved, wiping away tears, preparing to persuade me, but I quickly spoke first. "It's all right, I'll raise him." At my reply, the host's mouth dropped wide enough to fit an egg, and my father's tears seemed to freeze on his face. I smiled, facing my father, who seemed unsure how to react. "Rest assured, father, I will definitely treat my brother well. I won't let him suffer any hardships." The moment I finished speaking, my father jumped up, pulling Ethan behind him, looking at me with alarm. "What are you planning to do? He's your biological brother." The host, as if understanding my intention, tried to persuade me. "Ms. Davies, your brother is innocent. The grudges of the previous generation should not affect the next. Your father has realized his mistake. You shouldn't harbor hatred for your brother. Why can't you be more tolerant and loving and turn hatred into love?" I agreed. "Yes, you're absolutely right. I think so too." Then I turned to my bewildered father and in my most sincere tone said to him, "Father, please believe me. I will surely make my brother feel a sister's love. Please entrust him to me. Even if I have to starve myself, I will raise him to be a good person." My father pulled Ethan even closer, shouting, "What exactly are you plotting?" Seeing his reaction, I helplessly shrugged at the host. The host seemed confused, pondered carefully, then asked, "Ms. Davies, are your words truly sincere? I don't doubt your good intentions, but you know, raising a child is not as easy as it sounds." I looked at the host seriously. "Of course, I know the difficulties of raising a child. Since I was 7 years old, I had no father. My mother raised me alone. Enduring hardships I understand better than anyone." As I spoke, discomfort flickered across my father's and the host's faces, but I pretended not to notice. I continued to look into the camera, expressing my feelings. Since my mother passed away a few years ago, I've lived alone in this world, unable to find meaning in life. Now, with great difficulty, I've discovered I have a biological brother. How could I not care for him? I turned to my father. "Father, I know having a son has been your lifelong wish. As your daughter, how could I not care for him? Rest assured, I will do my best to give him a full and happy life. Father, we are blood relatives. You should trust the nature I inherited from you. Entrust my brother to me. I will surely give him a perfect life." Unfortunately, my father didn't understand my true intentions. My sincere words not only failed to move him but frightened him even more. He gasped, then turned to the slightly emotional host and shouted, "Don't trust her, she's lying." My father's suspicion angered the host. He asked, "Mr. Davies, you were the one who came to our show, hoping to find support for your young son. Why are you changing your mind now?" My father was speechless, unsure what to say. I crossed my arms and silently watched him in his awkwardness. The studio lights shone down on his face, revealing the aged wrinkles he tried to hide. His once handsome face was now covered in deep lines, like cracks in dry earth. His scattered gray hairs further highlighted his body's desiccation and decay. "Father, you've gotten old, haven't you? But don't worry, before you close your eyes for good, I'll show you how I'll drag your beloved son down to hell." My heart was filled with hatred. Memories of my father always stopped at the day he abandoned my mother and me. Back then, he was at the peak of his life. With a wife who could only bear a daughter, he had no patience at all. Whenever he drank or was annoyed by someone, my mother and I became his punching bags. His twisted face was like a nightmare from hell. Punches and kicks rained down on my mother's frail body, accompanied by curses. "What good are you? You can't even give birth to a son. Look at your face, like an old hag. Looking at you, I only feel disgust, you jinx, always crying." Such reproaches to my mother were a daily occurrence back then. Later, somehow, he made money, became rich and arrogant. He consorted with many disreputable women and demanded a divorce from my mother. He wanted my mother to leave with nothing. Mother refused because the house they lived in was my maternal grandparents' legacy, the only memory she had. My father refused to leave, and to force my mother's agreement, he shifted his attention to me in front of her. He beat me nearly to death. I waited for my chance and bit hard into his arm. No matter how he kicked and punched, I wouldn't let go. Only when the metallic taste of blood filled my mouth did he kick me away. My body slammed against a cabinet, the pain so intense I thought my bones would break. Even so, I didn't cry out in pain. I spat the blood from my mouth and stared at him with malice. This is my mother's house. If anyone has to leave, it's you. My father was a live-in son-in-law. When my maternal grandparents were alive, he could pretend to be decent. But after they passed, he revealed his true nature. All day long, he would smash things and curse at home. When I was less than a month old, he was already out playing with bad friends. All the family's daily expenses were borne by my mother alone, thanks to her small sewing shop. Hearing me speak, he immediately flew into a rage, raising his fist to punch my face. "You disrespectful brat, today I'll teach you a lesson." I closed my eyes, waiting for the pain, but the anticipated punch didn't land. Instead, a thin body tightly embraced me. I opened my eyes. It was my mother. She shielded me with her body, enduring my father's merciless blows with her frail frame. Seeing me, my mother comforted me, gently caressing me, managing a weak smile. Tears streamed down my face. I never begged for mercy, but that time I screamed at my father, "Stop hitting her! Stop hitting her!" But he didn't just not stop. He hit harder, making me cry out louder. Finally, my mother agreed to the divorce, carrying injuries all over her body, and left that house with me. Back then, my father was strong, wealthy, arrogant, and powerful. But now, he scurried around like a rat in a sewer, unable to afford to raise his beloved son, forced to beg the daughter he abandoned years ago. No matter how hard the host tried to persuade him, my father wouldn't let go. He understood very well that as his daughter, I inherited his cruelty and malice. If he handed this son over to me, the boy's life would be over. But the host didn't want to miss out on this hot topic. They didn't care if I took in my brother out of compassion, forgiveness, or out of hatred to torment him. As the show exposing this story, they would attract a huge audience. Not just this time, but throughout my brother's upbringing, they would have many follow-up programs exploiting this theme. Thinking about it, the host's face was filled with excitement, even a little twisted. He gently tried to persuade my father, telling him not to act impulsively. But no matter how much the host talked until his mouth was dry, my father wouldn't concede. Just then, my father's phone suddenly rang. He answered, glanced quickly at the watching crowd, grunted a few words, and hung up. I don't know who called, but it significantly changed his attitude. My father agreed to let me take Ethan home, but he set 3 conditions. He had the right to visit Ethan anytime. He hoped the show would follow the situation once a month, and he demanded I transfer half of my assets to Ethan's name. The moment he finished speaking, the surrounding crowd whistled in unison, and the host shook his head in disagreement. "Mr. Davies, both legally and morally, we cannot accept your 3rd condition." A flicker of greed appeared in my father's eyes. He argued loudly, "I just want some assurance." Then he switched to a pitiful tone, "I'm old, I don't know when I'll pass away. Ethan is still young, I need to arrange things properly for him so I can rest easy." Having said that, he began to weep in front of the camera. The host was silent for a moment, then emotionally said to me, "Ms. Davies, I know your father's request is somewhat unreasonable, but I still hope you can fulfill the last wish of a dying father." I also wiped my eyes, choking back tears. I understand my father's love for his son. Anyone who hears it would be moved. But I bit my lip, looking conflicted. "Actually, I don't have any assets." "Impossible," my father adamantly retorted. "Don't try to deceive me with such lies." The host also looked a bit displeased. He smoothed his hair, his sharp eyes fixed on me. "Ms. Davies, I know your father's request is excessive, and I can understand if you disagree, but you shouldn't lie to us. Before the show, we heard your father talk about your financial situation. As far as we know, you are currently a live streamer with nearly 1 million followers and own quite a few luxury villas. Your claim that you have no money is hard to believe." I forced a bitter smile. "All right then, everyone, follow me. I'll show you a few things." I led them to my residence. As soon as we entered, while the host and cameraman were exchanging words, I secretly pulled out my phone, typed a few things, and then put it back on the cabinet as if nothing had happened. My father was engrossed in looking at the house, his eyes gleaming. He rubbed his hands, his mouth openly watering. "Mia, you're so capable, so young and already owning such a big house." He didn't bother with pleasantries, examining every corner, even starting to make plans. This master bedroom is for your brother. The light here is good, beneficial for him, and this room will be his study. You know, your brother is like me, very intelligent. His mind shouldn't be wasted. My father enthusiastically planned the future for himself and his beloved son, treating the place as his own home. Even the experienced host couldn't help but feel awkward. He cleared his throat to ease the situation. Ms. Davies, perhaps your father is a bit too excited, but I also understand his feelings. Which parent wouldn't be happy to see their child succeed? Yes, 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 my father nodded profusely. The host ignored him and continued to speak to me, his voice full of persuasion. Ms. Davies, looking at the house and its decorations, your claim of being poor is truly hard to believe. Of course, if you have any other difficulties, you can also tell us so everyone can hear. The host, the cameraman, my father, and Ethan, all four with 8 eyes focused on me, full of greed for wealth and fame, maliciously scrutinizing me. I clearly understood their siege, but I just sat silently on the sofa, not saying a word. My father couldn't be patient any longer. He lunged towards me. Don't pretend anymore. You have so much money. What's wrong with leaving some for your brother? You were pretending from the start, and now that money is mentioned, everything's revealed, isn't it? Mia, you're just like your mother. You don't care about feelings at all, only money. My fingernails dug deep into my palms. I had to use all my strength to suppress the urge to leap up. Just a little more, Mia, I told myself. I've spent 3 years arranging everything. I can't let it fail at the last minute. The host also seemed disappointed in me. He said regretfully, Ms. Davies, if you had said from the beginning that you didn't want to take in your brother, we could have understood your feelings. But you shouldn't use such deceptive words to fool us. I'm truly very disappointed in you. After expressing all his disappointment, the host sat down, his voice heavy as he took my hand. Ms. Davies, family ties are priceless. You shouldn't let money blind you. I silently watched their act. Only when they had finished speaking did I open a drawer on the coffee table and take out a stack of documents. I handed the documents to them. Take a look. These are donation certificates. They record my donations over the past few years. Ignoring my father's outrage after seeing the documents, a strange look flashed in the host's eyes. Ms. Davies, if I may ask, why did you sign these asset donation papers 3 years ago? At that time, you were still young with a successful career. What prompted you to make this decision? He leaned forward slightly, his face clearly showing malice. Or perhaps you already knew you had a brother then, which is why you transferred your assets. So, may I understand that your words in front of the camera were also part of a plan you had calculated beforehand? The more the host pressed, the more I bowed my head awkwardly, shrinking into the sofa. Seeing this, the host became even more excited, like a vulture smelling blood, growing stronger and more enthusiastic. Words poured out relentlessly. My father also stood beside him, cheering the host on. While the two of them attacked me, Ethan calmly looked around, touching this and that, as if no one else was there. This boy my father once called intelligent, after graduating high school, couldn't even get into a mediocre university, only able to spend all his parents' money to study at an unknown college. At school, he refused to study, only knew how to drink, fight, and date. He had done everything else but study. He pulled off the white sheet covering a wall in the living room, curiously asking, "Is there treasure hidden under here? Why so mysterious?" When the sheet fell, his question also stopped. He stood frozen for a few seconds, then stumbled and fell to the ground, screaming pitifully as if being killed. Before everyone's eyes was a portrait of my mother. By then, she had been ravaged by illness to the point of being unrecognizable, weighing just over 30 kilograms. Her sparse hair clung to her scalp, her face pale, eye sockets deeply sunken, dark circles around her eyes prominent, yet on her face she still wore a smile. A smile she had tried her best to comfort me with. Now it looked like an emissary from hell come to claim souls. That scene scared David and Ethan out of their wits. Even the host was startled. He tried to swallow. I smiled faintly, my black hair falling over my face, looking at them in their fear, and then I spoke. I donated all my money because my mother died of cancer. When she was chased out of the house, my mother didn't have a single penny. To raise me, she had to work 3 jobs at once, working day and night. Finally, her body couldn't take it anymore. I always wonder if someone had helped her then, so she wouldn't have had to struggle so hard, would she have passed away so soon? After she died, I decided to donate all my income to help those who couldn't afford medical treatment. I had the procedures notarized at a law firm. If anything ever happens to me, all my assets will be transferred to a fund supporting cancer patients. I took a breath. I know that money is just a drop in the ocean, but it's my heart. I think if my mother were alive, she would agree with my decision. No sooner had I finished speaking than a gust of wind blew through the window, gently lifting the white cloth on the floor. My father and the host both flinched, not daring to say anything more. Only Ethan was fearless. After recovering from the shock, he shouted again, "Sister, stop being so mysterious and scaring people. Go get that money back for me right now. The dead are dead. What does that have to do with you? Why do you have to be so good? My mother said your money will eventually be mine anyway. Hurry up and get it back." I curled my lip in a cold smile. "Oh, so you still have a mother? Then I guess this sister doesn't need to do anything anymore, right? You see, I'm truly helpless." Realizing he had misspoken, Ethan awkwardly looked at my father and the host. The host no longer maintained his cheerful facade. He signaled to the cameraman to stop, and when the camera was off, he no longer bothered with fake politeness. He stood up, coldly discussing the current situation with the cameraman, completely disregarding my feelings, freely commenting on the footage. "Cut out the part where the boy talks about his mother. Don't let the audience know his mother is still alive. Focus on emphasizing the conflict between the siblings and the luxury of this house. Oh, and highlight her profession." At this, his voice was full of contempt. "I hate these live streamers and self-media types the most. They know so little but compete for our jobs." Hearing that, I couldn't hold back anymore. "Your behavior isn't much nobler than ours." The host looked down at me, his eyes clearly showing contempt. "So what, Ms. Davies? It seems you don't understand. We currently hold the initiative." "So you can twist black into white?" I asked loudly. "Black into white?" The host adjusted his glasses and said slowly, gently, "Ms. Davies, understand this. If I say white, it's white." My father puffed out his chest, casting off his usual subservience, and raised his head to speak to me. "Mia, how can an arm contend with a thigh? You just got lucky and made a little money. What can that compare to a television station? Considering we're family, I advise you to obediently hand over the money to support your brother and me, so you don't end up ruined." After speaking, he stood there with a smug look, certain I would give in, that I would become a puppet, losing money to him and his son. Looking at the hopeful faces of my father and his son, and the host's indifferent attitude to everything, I chuckled softly and revealed a secret. You know I'm a streamer, so as soon as I entered the house, I logged into my live stream platform. I pointed towards the blinking phone on the cabinet. On the screen, dense lines of comments made me feel at ease. I flashed a wide smile and looked at their astonished, frozen faces. "Say hello to my fans." Oh, this host is disgusting. It seems many people don't know he's always like this. He loves to morally pressure others. If he wants to be a good person, he should take people home and raise them himself. Why force others? My mom always considered this woman an idol. Now I'll show my mom her true colors. Poor streamer, give her a hug. I just wish that father and son would disappear as far away as possible. You can't say that. Even if her father is wrong, the brother is innocent. The streamer has so much money, giving a little is fine. Come on, this year's Philanthropist of the South title probably won't go to this beauty. I don't understand why everyone keeps blaming her. She's a victim, after all. Don't worry, everyone, I've already reported this host. If he appears on screen again, we'll boycott him collectively. Reported. One more person. Looking at the screen packed with comments, the host could no longer maintain his usual calm and confident demeanor. He looked like a strangled goose, his lips trembling, unable to utter a word. Finally, the cameraman reacted instantly, immediately turning off the live stream. Then he cautiously looked around. Seeing his careful demeanor, I kindly said, "It's nothing, I only turned on this one live stream device." But the cameraman still didn't relax. His vigilance was almost overflowing from his eyes. The host was still disoriented, his face pale, his whole body trembling, unable to stand steady. The cameraman had to help him up, staggering as he led him outside. Looking at the hateful glance the host threw my way before leaving, I felt no emotion stirring within me. What did he have to be hateful about? If I were truly just an ordinary, unknown person, if I hadn't prepared beforehand, then I would be the one being torn apart by public opinion right now, not him. My father seemed not to understand what was happening. He ran after the host to ask about the situation. When he saw that they truly weren't going to help anymore, he angrily argued with them. Hearing the vulgar words he uttered, the host couldn't take it anymore. He suddenly shoved my father hard, sending him sprawling to the ground. "You've ruined my life, do you know that?" the host screamed, choking back sobs. My father, lying on the ground, also flew into a rage. "What are you saying? What does this have to do with me? Anyway, I don't care. You can't abandon me like this. If you leave, I'll sue you at the TV station." The shouting outside made my mood better than ever. I stood up, poured myself a glass of red wine, slowly swirled the glass, watched the deep red liquid cling to the sides, and savored its aroma. Then I turned to look at a bewildered Ethan. "Want to try some?" Without waiting for his answer, I put the glass of wine in his hand myself. "Try it, because you'll only get this chance once in your life. Do you know? The price of this glass of wine is equivalent to the entire life of your greedy, lazy, and foolish parents. They'll never earn enough to buy it." As I handed him the wine, I clearly saw envy in his eyes, and his other hand clenched into a fist. I completely ignored his anger. In fact, I was quite amused as I began to tell him the truth. "Do you know? Years ago, during the divorce, Father took all the family assets, leaving not a single penny for my mother and me. Back then, he made money, bought cars, even villas, plus money in his account. I estimate it must have been over $1 million. More than 20 years ago, he was already a millionaire, surrounded by people cheering him wherever he went, spending money like water. Even distant relatives clung to him to benefit. I held up the bottle of wine in front of Ethan. "This kind of wine you're drinking? Father used to drink it like water." As I spoke, I observed his resentful but helpless face, then twisted the knife further. "Too bad, Father's money went to everyone else, but not a single penny was for his children. I never spent a dime of his money, and you're probably no different. We truly are siblings in the same predicament." Ethan's expression changed constantly as he listened to my words. The suffering and dissatisfaction clearly visible on his face gave me immense pleasure. Seeing my father returning, I seized the opportunity to slip Ethan a bank card. "There's 10,000 in here. The password is 6 sixes. Consider it a welcome gift from your sister." Ethan looked at the card in his hand, his face full of bewilderment. I was like a tempting demon, leaning close to his ear and whispering, "If you want to make money, contact me. I'm waiting for your call, little brother. No one can be trusted, you know? If you want money, you have to earn it yourself." My father had returned, frowned at me, and then pulled Ethan, intending to leave. I reached out to stop them. "Don't leave so quickly. We've only just met after such a long time. Let your daughter show a little filial piety." My father spat on the ground and said angrily, "You wolf-hearted bitch, just wait for divine retribution." I dropped my smile. "If lightning strikes, it will surely strike you first, Father. If you're not afraid, why should I be?" My father cursed as he dragged Ethan away. As he went, he said, "No matter what you say, I'm still your father. You can't just ignore me. I'll sue you for unfilial conduct." I paid him no mind, only focusing on Ethan's uneasy expression. The short path, less than 10 meters, saw him constantly turning back, his young face burning with greed and hesitation. Contrary to that expression, his hand clutched the bank card I gave him, not revealing the slightest trace of it. I laughed until tears streamed down my face, thinking to myself, "Father, this is truly the greatest gift you've ever given me." Part 2. My livestream caused a strong reaction online. The host and the Davies family were all caught in a whirlwind of public opinion. Among them, the most severely affected was the host. As a public figure and a host specializing in resolving conflicts and promoting emotional ties, the fact that he could twist black into white, saying one thing and doing another on the show, was truly unbelievable. Previously, viewers already had many opinions about this show and host, so when I exploited their weakness, the online community didn't let it go easily. It was said that the TV station's hotline was jammed with calls. Eventually, the show was urgently taken off the air, and the host was asked to resign. My father also couldn't escape public scrutiny. Some savvy netizens found his contact information and published it online, making him a target of public attack. His life became utterly miserable. However, Ethan was unaffected. After returning home, knowing the unfavorable situation, my father immediately took his son back to their hometown. He went to great lengths to protect his son, but what he didn't know was that while he and Ethan's mother were endlessly cursed, their beloved son was holding a large sum of money, living a luxurious life in the countryside. Pitiful, his parental love. Knowing that, I felt incredibly refreshed. Not long after, Ethan had spent all the money and came looking for me. The first thing he asked when we met was, "How are you going to help me make money, sister? Don't you hate me? Why are you helping me? What exactly is your scheme?" I crossed my arms over my chest and calmly replied, "Hate you? What are you to me that you're worth my hatred? If your family were rich and prosperous, I would definitely hate you, but look at how you all live." I looked at the clothes he was wearing, my eyes unable to hide my contempt. "You live worse than rats in a sewer. Are you even worth my hatred?" My contemptuous gaze was like a knife plunging into the teenager's self-esteem. He tugged at his clothes, lowered his head, and remained silent. Seeing this, I softened my voice. "Parents are not something one can choose. Family circumstances are not decided by you either. We both suffer because we have a worthless father. We can't rely on anyone else. We can only rely on ourselves. Look at me." I spun around in front of him. I started from nothing, and now I have a house, a car, and a reputation. If I can do it, won't it be even easier for you, a young, strong man? Ethan felt a surge of passion listening to me and immediately asked for my plan. I smiled at him, and under his bewildered gaze, I opened my laptop. "You know, after that live stream, I gained a few million more followers. If I know how to utilize it, reaching 10 million followers isn't impossible. You're not in this field, so you might not understand the difference between 1 million and 10 million followers. I'll just tell you one thing. If I reach 10 million followers, the income from one live stream can be many times my current annual income." Ethan grew more confused. "But what does this have to do with me?" "Of course it does." I looked at him with burning eyes. "Now I need you to live stream with me. You have to cooperate with me, act out a perfect play. If you do it well, the viewership in the live stream room will increase even more. You will play the role of an ignorant teenager spoiled by his parents. But after learning the truth, you will awaken and decide to cut ties with your parents. You will cry and apologize to me in front of millions of viewers, kneel and beg for forgiveness for my mother, and clearly declare that you are no longer walking the same path as your father." The smile on Ethan's face froze. "Will that be all right?" Seeing his hesitation, I withdrew my smile and silently observed. When I saw him wavering, I sneered faintly. "You can't bear to, can you?" I knew he was struggling internally. Compared to me, an abandoned child, Ethan was doted on by his father. Their father-son bond was still very deep. Ethan said nothing, his expression vague, but I was not in a hurry. I just slowly stirred the coffee in my hand, enjoying the internal conflict on his face. The sound of the spoon hitting the cup echoed gently, each sound like a tap on Ethan's heart. He kept moving his hands under the table, still unable to decide. I lost patience, picked up my bag, and stood up. Looking at the struggling teenager, I said, "I understand your meaning." Then I walked straight away. After only 2 steps, my arm was held back. I turned around and asked, "Have you thought it through?" Ethan panted, his eyes fierce. "All right, I'll do it. But then you have to give me half the money, sister." Snorted with laughter. "Are you kidding? Half the split. On what grounds are you demanding half? Do you have capital or skills or connections? Ethan, you need to understand your place. I agreed to help you make money because I saw it as a good opportunity. Initially, we can both win, but don't be unreasonable. Do you really think I need you that much?" Ethan's grip on my arm loosened, and he became weaker, no longer resisting. I smiled and gently persuaded him, "It's just acting, that's all. Later, you can go back and explain everything to your father. Opportunities don't come twice. Right now, the situation is very hot. If we cooperate, we'll make a lot of money. When you bring home a large sum of money, will your father really blame you? Think carefully. Your father's reputation is already ruined. Do you want to sync with him? Viewership is a double-edged sword. It can destroy a person but also bring money and fame. What will you choose? Who knows, after this, you might also become a famous streamer." Hearing my words, the teenager finally made up his mind. "All right, I'll do it." But Ethan was only 19 and hadn't stepped into society yet. If he wanted to livestream, the first thing he had to do was ask his parents for permission. I couldn't help with that. I could only let him resolve it himself. Before we parted, I added fuel to the fire. Viewers come quickly, but they leave quickly too. You must seize this opportunity. As a result, that evening, Ethan's birth mother came to see me. Her name was Selena. She was an ordinary-looking woman, somewhat timid. As soon as she entered the house, she knelt before me. "Please have mercy on us. Miss Ethan is young and doesn't understand the danger of this. If he says those things on livestream, what face will his father and I have left to show anyone? Mr. Davies was wrong to come to you last time, but he only wanted to find a relative for Ethan before he died. If you don't like or hate us, we will stay away from you. But you cannot push your own brother into a pit of fire." The thin woman wept pitifully, tears and snot streaming down her face, looking very pathetic. Someone who didn't know the full story would easily be swayed by her, but not me. I knew very well what kind of person this woman was. Since she was young, Selena had no status, only quietly followed my father, one of his many fleeting relationships. Back then, my father was wealthy, always surrounded by women, each with her own charm. Selena was the least remarkable among them, neither beautiful nor educated. But thanks to her gentleness and understanding, she managed to find a way to advance, standing out among the crowd of women, and finally, by giving birth to a son, she secured her position as Mrs. Davies. This plan to reclaim the child was orchestrated by her own hand. My father had once made a lot of money through luck, but good fortune doesn't last forever. For many years, he only knew how to spend money without doing anything else. Surrounded by freeloaders, the money he earned had long been squandered. Selena had worked very hard to marry into the Davies family, hoping to be a wealthy lady, but in the end, she received nothing. When she saw their life becoming increasingly poor, with not even money for old age left, she set her sights on me. She heard I was now a famous streamer and lived alone. My mother had also passed away, so she began to covet my assets. In her mind, for an unmarried daughter, bringing money back to the men in the family was perfectly normal. After all, she had experienced it herself before. When she had no children, all her money went to her brothers for their weddings. When she had a child, the money would be saved for her son. What did women need money for? It was precisely because of this strange thinking that she orchestrated this, reclaiming the child, act. But she miscalculated. She thought the previous failure was just my luck, not knowing it was the result of a plan I had painstakingly calculated for years. Over the years, I had hired people to monitor their every move and orchestrated this play to lure the snake out of its hole. I deliberately had someone approach them and accidentally reveal my live stream. That person, following my script, pointed at the phone screen and said to Selena, "Tell me, what is this woman thinking?" She has no one left in her family, struggling alone in society, nearly 30 years old and not even thinking about getting married. What is she earning so much money for? In the end, who knows whose hands it will fall into out there? It's true that if you don't have a son, it's no good. If she had a brother, this family fortune wouldn't be wasted like this, right? As one of the first women to ever be with my father, Selena, of course, recognized me. She immediately followed me, watching all my previous videos. When she saw me dressed beautifully and living a glamorous life in the videos, her greed ignited. She went home and discussed it with my father, and the two quickly agreed to this reclaim the child plan. Kneeling on the ground, Selena had no idea she had fallen into a trap. She cried and secretly gazed at the furniture in my house. Meanwhile, Ethan was huddled outside the door with his father, waiting for his mother to expose my true colors. I glanced out the door and deliberately spoke loudly. "If you eat salted fish, you must endure the thirst. There's no such thing as a free meal in this world. You say I'm pushing Ethan into a pit of fire? I won't take responsibility for that." Initially, things could have been mutually beneficial, but hearing you say that makes it sound like I have some sinister plot. But you also have to consider, if you don't give anything, how will Ethan earn money? Dear Auntie, Ethan's reputation has already been ruined by his own parents. That has nothing to do with me. Now, allowing him to livestream is just to restore his reputation. Honestly, can't you and my father sacrifice a little for your son? This isn't anything serious. I'm not asking you to climb a mountain of blades or descend into a sea of fire. Loving your child isn't just about words. My words didn't move Selena, but they struck a chord with Ethan, who was eavesdropping outside. He rushed in and pulled his mother to her feet. Mom, can you stop embarrassing yourself?" Being 18 or 19, Ethan didn't know his own strength. Instead of gently helping his mother up, he accidentally pushed her hard, causing Selena to tumble to the ground. Seeing this, a flicker of confusion appeared on Ethan's youthful face. "See, Mom, you can't even stand still anymore." My father, David, walked in afterward, but paid no attention to Selena lying on the ground, only intently looking at me. Ethan, fearing that saying more would ruin his chance to make money, began to speak incoherently. "Dad, can't I earn money myself? You were rich your whole life, but did you leave me a single penny? Now I want to earn my own money, and you two won't help me. Is this how you love your son?" Excellent, I thought. He heard everything I said. Although David was now miserable, when he was young, he was a man of his word. Hearing his son defy him, he didn't think twice, immediately kicking him. "You little bastard, I raised you all this time just for you to stand in front of me and curse me?" Ethan's face flushed red. Being beaten in front of me made him lose all dignity. In his confusion, he started talking nonsense. I wasn't lying. "You dare to do it, but don't dare to admit it." David furiously picked up something nearby, intending to throw it at Ethan. Selena saw her son was about to be in trouble and no longer pretended to be weak, rushing to stand in front of Ethan. "If you dare hit him, I'll fight you to the death." Seeing his wife's anger, David raised his arm, then let it fall powerlessly. Then he punched his own chest, shouting, "Sin, sin." Selena also burst into bitter tears. Ethan looked at his parents suffering, suddenly becoming bewildered, wanting to help them, but when he saw my half-smile, he recoiled. David and Selena performed their crying monologue for a long time, but no one paid them any mind, so their cries gradually weakened. David wiped his wife's tears, comforting her. "Forget it. He's grown up, has his own thoughts. We can't control him anymore. From now on, let's pretend we never gave birth to this unfilial child. Let's live our own lives well." Having said that, the two supported each other and left. I watched the two old people, their steps heavy, then looked at a bewildered Ethan, unsure whether to stay or go. I lowered my head and chuckled softly. "Trying to use a pity ploy to fight me? Ha, I'm not a naive girl who grew up in wealth. I'm a flesh-eating flower born from the darkness. Father, rest assured, I will definitely educate this younger brother well, not to waste the hearts of his parents for loving their son." My decision to have Ethan livestream with me caused a huge wave online. Our first livestream attracted a large number of viewers. Some cursed, some praised, some just came to watch for fun, but most were cursing. They cursed me for not distinguishing right from wrong, forgetting my mother's grudge. They cursed Ethan as shameless, a bloodsucker off his sister, truly the son of a scoundrel. They cursed David as irresponsible, having children but not raising them properly. Ethan was cursed by netizens every day until he was frustrated, but for the money, he had to suppress his anger, trying to appear obedient in front of the camera. Following my instructions, he sat upright before the camera, his eyes red. "I know my parents were wrong, they did wrong to my sister. This time I'm here to atone for them. I don't want to make excuses, wrong is wrong, and I must bear the consequences." Some suspected Ethan and David were in cahoots, saying he must have been involved in the Reclaim the Child scheme. Ethan panicked, quickly defending himself. "I really didn't know anything at the time. My father told me what to do, and I did it. I also didn't expect him to do such a thing. I'm very angry, and I've cut ties with him. From now on, I won't have anything to do with him." The more he spoke, the more Ethan was criticized, but the viewership in the livestream room kept increasing. David and Selena's names were also constantly mentioned, becoming a topic of discussion for everyone. Some relentlessly attacked Ethan, climbing higher up the ladder, even cursing his own parents. "This kid has a future, truly a wolf in a dog's skin. Mia, your brother is not a good person. Be careful he doesn't betray you." After the livestream ended, Ethan angrily slammed the table and chairs. I scoffed. "Can't take it anymore?" Ethan's face flushed red, and he angrily asked me, "You did this on purpose, didn't you? You deliberately made me get cursed and lose face." Yes, I did it on purpose. But in front of him, I feigned even greater anger. "Are you the only one suffering? Didn't you see all those curses in the livestream room?" In the livestream room, many viewers didn't understand my actions. Some gently reminded me to be careful not to raise a white-eyed wolf. Hot-headed people directly called me foolish and naive. Others, who thought they understood everything, said, "Mia isn't foolish at all. Look how much her follower count increased after this incident. She's not trying to help her brother. She's just promoting herself." When I mentioned these things, Ethan's suspicion lessened. The subsequent live streams were still full of curses, and Ethan's face grew darker and darker, like a volcano ready to erupt. When I saw he was nearing his limit, I gave him a bank card. The password was 6 sixes. Immediately, Ethan calmed down, carefully took the card, rubbed it for a moment, and then asked, "How much money is in here?" I stated a number that froze him. "That much?" I glanced at him. "Isn't it worth being cursed this much?" Ethan seemed to have struck gold, clutching the bank card and smiling nonstop, like a mouse that had fallen into a rice jar. Ethan couldn't bear it anymore and immediately called his bad friends to go out and blow off steam. The result was a fun outing, but when he returned, he was absolutely furious. Ethan slammed the card onto the table in front of me, his neck red, shouting, "Mia, are you playing with me? There isn't a single penny in this card." I picked up the card, feigning surprise. "How can that be?" Then I pulled out my phone and showed him the transaction history. "You don't have to believe me, but you have to believe the bank, right?" Ethan was still half believing, half doubting, so I opened my phone and entered the card number to check. Sure enough, I found a problem. I asked Ethan, "Are you using David's supplementary card?" Ethan was also stunned, stammering, I don't know. "This is the card my father gave me last year. I've been using it." I nodded, understanding, and said, "David probably used his own card to open a supplementary card for you, and as for the money," I drew out my words. Under Ethan's anxious gaze, I shattered his last hope. "It was all withdrawn by him. How savage, not a single cent left for you." Ethan was so angry his face turned crimson, as if he was about to explode. He slammed the door shut and ran out, his entire body like a gunpowder keg about to ignite. When the room became completely silent, I winked at my mother's portrait. "Mom, time for a show." The private investigator I hired worked very carefully and soon sent me a live video from his phone. Ethan burst into the house, kicking the door open, startling Selena, who was eating. Seeing her son return, she was both happy and worried. "You're back!" Seeing Ethan's expression was not right, Selena immediately cried out, "Did Mia bully you?" She quickly hugged her son's face, saying heartbrokenly, "Son, bear with it a little longer. When you become famous, we'll become streamers ourselves. We won't need to endure her attitude anymore. Then, your uncle can sell her into the mountains and see if she still dares to be arrogant. All her assets will belong to my son then." Selena spoke with increasing fervor, her eyes gleaming, panting with excitement as she imagined a beautiful life. Listening through the screen, I couldn't help but laugh. So that was their original plan as a family of 3. To borrow my reputation to build their own name, and once Ethan was fully fledged, he would split off on his own. But besides wanting to use me to make money, Selena also planned a tragic future for me. While I was listening intently, the screen showed new movement. David entered the house with a cheerful expression. Seeing Ethan, he immediately tried to sneak away but was blocked by the tall Ethan. Smelling the strong scent of alcohol and cigarettes on his father, Ethan's face grew darker. David tried to force a smile to gloss over things, but Ethan cut him off. "Dad, this time I won't argue about that money anymore. Consider it my filial piety to you and Mom. Now, give me my ID card." Selena looked at the two, bewildered, not understanding what was happening. "What do you need your ID card for?" Ethan glanced at her, a hidden anger in his calm eyes. "I'm 19 now. I can open my own bank account." David panicked, his expression turning stern. He put on a paternalistic tone. "You're still young. Why do you need to open an account? Just use this card." Ethan exploded. "The money was transferred to the account, and then you withdrew it all, didn't you? You took my money to go out with women, didn't you?" Selena finally understood what had happened and screamed, then turned to yell at David. "You used our son's money? Didn't we agree that no one was allowed to touch his money, to save it as capital for his startup?" Mocked by his son, David was furious, but feeling guilty, he couldn't retort. Just then, Selena questioned him, and he took advantage of his drunkenness to slap her hard. "Damn it, even you dare to defy me? You've eaten my food and drunk my drinks for so many years. I can't spend a little money. Without me, what are you?" Although his words were aimed at Selena, David's eyes flickered towards Ethan, clearly implying his son. Staggering from the blow, Selena had no time to resist. She immediately clung to Ethan's arm. "How much money did he take from you?" When she heard her son state the amount, Selena went ballistic. "I'm at home eating gruel, and you're out there having fun with our son's money? I don't care. From now on, my son's money will be kept by me." David scoffed dismissively. "In your hands, it's no different than in your brother's hands. This is money earned by the Davies family. Don't dream of pipe dreams." Seeing his parents arguing intensely, Ethan took a deep breath and then kicked over the dining table nearby. The table shattered into pieces, and white porridge splattered across the floor, shocking the red-eyed arguing couple into silence. They both turned to look at their son. Ethan, his throat hoarse, his neck veins bulging, screamed, "That's my money. My money, you too won't get a penny." Seeing his son so enraged, David didn't dare to face him and seized an opportunity to sneak away. Selena slammed her hands on the ground, sitting there wailing, "Why is my fate so miserable? Not only did I get a useless husband, but now even my son is unfilial." While the chaotic scene unfolded on the screen, I sat outside, watching everything with satisfaction. At dinner, Ethan hesitantly asked me, "Can you give me cash from now on, sister?" I scoffed at his naivete. "What are you thinking? Do you really think we're close siblings? Right now, you're David's ATM. If I actually gave you cash, wouldn't your parents tear me apart? We just have a partnership. Do you think I want to get involved in your father and son's mess?" Seeing Ethan like a restless wild animal caged, I suppressed a smile and continued, "Besides, do you think the problem now is just cash? Don't be naive, little brother. Blood ties are something that cannot be cut. Anyway, you're not like me. You don't have a mother-killing grudge separating you." Seeing a fierce glint in Ethan's eyes, I frowned and immediately cut him off. "Stop. I don't want to become a murderer. How did your father raise you? Is your head only filled with thoughts of fighting? If you actually do something like that, don't come to see me again." As the son of David and Selena, Ethan had inherited their cruel and reckless personalities. I, their family's enemy, only wanted to watch them fight among themselves, but Ethan, for a bit of money, was developing murderous intentions. I wouldn't let him act on it. I wanted revenge, but not by turning myself into a character on a true crime show. People like them weren't worth me destroying myself for. After calming Ethan, I called the private investigator. Find more people to investigate Selena's family in her hometown, especially her maternal uncle. I suspect they're involved in human trafficking, but be careful not to be discovered. From the daytime conversation between Selena and Ethan about selling me, it seemed that it wasn't just idle talk. It was very likely that this wasn't the first time they had executed such a plan. Although Ethan appeared angry and frustrated, with the explosion of the livestream room, his expression grew darker. Especially when Selena kept calling him, crying and blaming David for squandering money. She also desperately begged Ethan for money, continuously emphasizing that she was only holding the money for him and hadn't spent any of it. Even from a distance, I could hear Selena's nagging voice on the phone. "If you're not going to give it, what new tricks are you playing now, son?" The last straw was when Selena called, crying to Ethan, "I told you that school friend of yours isn't a good person. You wouldn't believe me. Now look, she's clinging to your father. Are you happy now? You consider her your girlfriend, but she wants to be your mother." It turned out that after getting money, David's philandering ways resurfaced. He went out to party, indulging freely, spending money lavishly, not only attracting girls at bars, but also taking home another young woman, Ethan's university classmate. That girl didn't know Ethan was at my place, so she often came to his home looking for him and eventually ended up in David's bed. Looking at Ethan holding the phone, I even felt a bit of sympathy for him. So young, yet surrounded by such twisted people. The hot-headed 19-year-old, of course, couldn't endure such humiliation. He angrily ran home to confront David. Upon arriving, he saw David drunk and asleep on the bed. Ethan's anger erupted. He grabbed the chair next to the bed and slammed it directly into him. Still not satisfied, Ethan pushed Selena away when she tried to intervene, then ran straight into the kitchen to grab a knife. David, startled awake by the blow, sat up bewildered. When he realized the current situation, cold sweat broke out all over his body. Facing his son, who had lost all reason, David frantically defended himself. "Son, don't be angry, listen to me explain. I was just testing that girl for you. You're the one who will bring honor to our family name. How could you marry a girl like that?" His words not only failed to appease Ethan's anger, but exacerbated both old and new resentments. Ethan's eyes were bloodshot. He raised the knife. "You used my money, slept with my girlfriend, and then say it's for my own good." The moment he finished speaking, the knife was at David's face. Selena was so scared that tears streamed down her face. She frantically pulled Ethan's arm, pleading with her son to spare him. "Son, that's your father. Don't do anything foolish." While Selena was pulling Ethan's arm, David seized the opportunity to snatch the knife from his son. Seeing Ethan disarmed, David no longer maintained his previous submissive demeanor. He immediately kicked Ethan. "I'll kill you, you little bastard. How dare you raise a knife at your father?" Ethan fell to the ground, shouting indignantly, "Go ahead and kill me. If not, I won't let you off." Just as the two were in a tense standoff, the police arrived. David became even more aggressive when he saw the police. "Officers, I want to report a crime. This kid tried to kill me." The police quickly separated the father and son. After inquiring about the situation, they began to mediate between the two. David even tried to curry favor. "Don't worry, officers, I will definitely change from now on." Selena also wiped her tears, saying gratefully, "Thank you so much, officers. Without you, I don't know what I would have done." She even reached out to shake the officer's hands, but as soon as she raised her hand, cold handcuffs snapped shut. All three members of the Davies family froze in shock, and Selena stammered incoherently. "No, officers, there must be some mistake." The police presented an arrest warrant and said, "Mrs. Selena, you are currently suspected of involvement in human trafficking. Please come with us to the station." Upon hearing this, Selena seemed to lose all her strength and collapsed to the ground. Ethan was paralyzed, not daring to move. Only David still didn't understand what was happening. He chased after the police, asking repeatedly, "There must be some mistake. My wife is just a housewife. She doesn't know anything." The police looked at David with sympathy, explaining gently, "Mr. David, actually, this matter also involves you. Do you remember Sarah? Years ago, she didn't steal money and run away. She was kidnapped and sold by Mrs. Selena and others. Now, Sarah has been rescued and has confirmed Mrs. Selena's involvement in this crime." Upon hearing this, David froze. When he understood the issue, he immediately flew into a rage, lunging to hit Selena. Ethan quickly restrained him, both worried and panicked, saying, "If Mom goes to jail, my life is over." Hearing this, David's raised hand didn't dare to strike down. After a long moment of thought, he reluctantly forced a strained smile at the police. There must be some misunderstanding here. But the police didn't let him finish, their sharp eyes turning towards Ethan. "Whether it's a misunderstanding or not, we'll discuss it at the station. Both of you are invited to the station to cooperate with the investigation." Both David and Ethan were taken to the station. At the police station, faced with irrefutable evidence, Selena quickly confessed. She admitted to helping human traffickers in her hometown select victims and participate in kidnapping women. Although Selena tried to take all the blame, the police astutely noticed an anomaly in her testimony. In some kidnapping cases, Ethan was also present. When interrogated, Ethan's mental state quickly crumbled, and he confessed that he not only knew about his mother's criminal activities, but also assisted her. He exploited his innocence and youth to lower the victim's guard, helping Selena deceive them. Since Ethan was of legal age in his most recent crime, he and Selena would face severe legal punishment. Hearing the court's verdict, David completely collapsed, trembling and falling to the ground, suffering a stroke. As his daughter, I paid to have him admitted to a nursing home and instructed the staff to take good care of him. I want him to live a very long life, enjoying his old age. The people in the nursing home understood the hatred between us. They just nodded slightly, comprehending my intention. In front of the nursing home gate, a thin woman, Sarah, was waiting for me. A few days earlier, somehow, she had found my contact information and said she wanted to do a live stream with me. I seriously asked her, "Have you thought it through, sister? Do you really want to tell your entire kidnapping story on a live stream? Tearing open your own wounds for others to see doesn't always garner sympathy. They might despise, loathe, and ridicule you." Sarah's pale lips managed a forced smile. "I need a job, but I've been away from society for too long. Moreover, I won't just tell my story, but also the stories of other kidnapped women. Sharing these stories will not only help us earn a little money, but also warn others. I don't see anything to be ashamed of." I smiled and extended my hand to Sarah. Then, a pleasant cooperation. The setting sun blazed red behind us, but in my heart, I felt more at peace than ever before. My long-cherished wish had been fulfilled. Now was the time for me to do more meaningful things. Yeah,